Welcome to the Fantastic Fluency Podcast, brought to you by fantasticfluency.com, helping students around the world master English every day. Here is your host, Tom Mudge, the world's preeminent English teacher and a pretty nice guy too.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tom, and this is the Fantastic Fluency Podcast. And before we begin, just a quick reminder that the reason for the Q&A podcast specifically is for you to be practicing your speaking skills as much as possible. We are focusing on your output here as well as your input. So you have to take every opportunity you get to speak. Also, don't forget to smash the like button if you find value in this podcast. I hope you do. And please remember to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell to get the newest Fantastic Fluency uploads. Okie dokie. So are you ready to level up? I hope so. So let's start the podcast. Okay, the first question of the podcast. Are you ready? Imagine this. Imagine you could choose anyone in the world to become friends with. Who would you choose? If you could choose anyone in the world to become friends with, who would you choose? Who would you become friends with? I guess you would have a lot of options. We can also say that people living at the moment. So we won't have any historical figures or anything like that. So it could be anybody in the world. Who would you choose? I would probably choose, and this is a tough one. I think I might choose someone who is smarter than me. So that's like a really big selection of people. But, you know, someone that you could learn something from and someone who would be interesting to talk to. Remember, this person would be your friend if you were to choose like Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla and SpaceX and a lot of other businesses, I'm sure. Elon Musk, he's probably a very busy person. He's a very successful person. And I'm sure that he is swamped with work every day and he has a very hectic schedule, probably a grueling schedule. And you think, well, he might not have a lot of time. But remember, he's your friend. So you could call him up and say, hey, Elon, what's up? Let's have a chat. You know, hey, what do you think about this? You could be asking his opinion about things. And again, I'm sure he has a very different way of looking at the world. So that would be interesting. And that would probably offer you a different perspective on things. So if you could choose anyone in the world to become friends with, who would you choose and why? So just imagine we're having this conversation face to face, or we're in a group of people and someone looks at you and asks you this question. So now you can click pause, press pause, and answer the question. Take a couple of minutes, think about it, answer the question like you were answering this in an actual situation, a conversation that's face to face. Okay, so let's see. Interesting question. Let's go to the next one. If you could be fluent in 4 languages, which languages would you choose? Another question of choice. So what 4 languages would you choose to be fluent in? So we're talking about levels of fantastic fluency. Well, let's just say this. You have your native language. So maybe your native language is Spanish or Japanese or Russian, whatever. So you have your native language. That's one. Let's say English. That's number 2. And I hope that you have fantastic fluency in English, or that is your goal, to have fantastic fluency in English. And that's why you're listening to this podcast. So English, 2. So we have 2 languages, your native language and English. We have 2 more. Which languages would you choose? So we have a lot of languages around the world. which two, we only have two left, because the question was, if you could be fluent in 4 languages, which languages would you choose? Well, our native language, we don't choose that one. And then English, we're choosing that one. We have 2 left. So what 2 languages would you choose and why? So again, click the pause button, think about that, and the explanation. So if you ask me, I would say Spanish. Okay, so English is my native language. Spanish is my secondary language, and I would love to have fantastic fluency in Spanish. I'm trying every day, each and every day. I try more and more and more. It's not easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. So I would say Spanish, English, Spanish. And why Spanish? Well, number one, because it's one of the most frequently used languages in the world, most frequently spoken languages in the world. And it also has, or it covers, a large geographical area. So you can hear Spanish from countries in Europe and in South America, North America, or the Americas. So it's really quite popular for commerce, for business, for academics, for traveling, a lot of things, a lot of interesting cultures, diverse, well, ecosystems. I don't know. There are a lot of cool things that would open your world if you spoke Spanish. So if you spoke it well, remember these are languages that you would be fluent in. So for me, English, Spanish, 2 more. Well, those are both European languages, and you can also say that they're spoken in the Americas, North and South America. So that covers a lot of area in terms of the globe. So I don't know if I would choose another European language, although I would love to be able to fluently speak French, German, Portuguese, Italian, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. Yeah. So Polish, Greek, Swedish, why not? But I don't think it would be a European language. So if I have 2 languages left, I would probably say, well, I think people will say Chinese. That's probably Mandarin or standard Chinese. I don't know if that's standard or traditional, but I would probably choose Chinese again based on the number of people who speak it and all of the possible doors that or opportunities that you would have, doors that would open because of that, or opportunities that you'd have because you'd spoke fluent Chinese. Also culturally, I mean, to really understand a culture, you have to learn the language. So I think that would be interesting to know more about the Chinese culture. So that's an Asian language. So I'm thinking also like I was thinking Hindi, maybe Hindi, or a predominant language in India, again, for the same reasons. But again, Chinese we can say it's an Asian language, it's in Asia, it's East Asia, and I think India is Central Asia. But here, let's go to Africa. So I'm going to say, well, maybe even Arabic. Arabic, I think, would be a really interesting one. And Arabic is also spoken, I think, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia. So a lot of parts of the world speak Arabic. So I think I would say Arabic, but that's not particularly an African language. It's spoken in many regions around the world. So I'm going to say Arabic, Arabic, Chinese, traditional Chinese, or standard Chinese, Mandarin. Of course, my native language, and Spanish. So what about you? What 2 other languages, apart from your native language and English, would you choose to be fluent in? Okay, next question. Let's see. What sound do you think you would miss the most if you went deaf? Wow, this is a tough one. What sound do you think you would miss most if you went deaf? So what sound, what noise do you think you would miss? You miss something, maybe a person. You haven't seen your friend for a long time and you miss your friend or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your husband or your wife or your brother, your sister. You miss them because you haven't seen them. In this case, you're missing a sound because you don't hear it because you're deaf. So what sound do you think you would miss most if you went deaf? Deaf is describing the result of someone not being able to hear. So if you are deaf, you cannot hear. Your ears don't function in the way that permit you to hear. So it's like the loss of a sense. If you lose your ability to see, you are blind. You cannot see, you are blind. If you lose your ability to listen or to hear, you are deaf. You cannot hear. If you lose your ability to speak, you cannot speak. You are mute. You are mute. So, what sound do you think you would miss most if you went deaf? I don't think many people would say the sound of Tom's voice. Well, maybe my wife might say that. I don't know. My kids, hopefully. What sound do you think you would miss most if you went deaf? Click the pause button. Answer this question. I'm sure it's going to be a really cool answer. It's a cool question. Well, I think I answered the question myself. I think I would miss my wife's voice or my children's voice the most. And I think that's what most people will say. But if it's not a person, if it's another sound that's not a person, well, what sound would you miss the most if it's not a person? I would say music, maybe. No, I'm going to say birds. Birds, little birdies, trip, 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 trip. I think it's really nice to hear that in the morning, a Sunday morning. You wake up on a Sunday morning and you hear maybe the sun is coming up, the day is beginning, and you hear the little chirp, 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 chirp of birds. You hear the chirping of birds. I would really miss that. How about you? What would you miss the most apart from people? Because probably, I hope you're going to say people who you love. So apart from that, what sound would you miss the most? Okay. Use this opportunity to practice your English. Take a couple of minutes, press pause, speak at length. Don't worry about mistakes. Just speak. Imagine I am next to you. I'm looking at you. We're having a conversation. Just speak. Yeah. Take the time now to practice. That's how you get fantastic fluency, is by practicing, learning and practicing, and then practicing more. So let's practice now. Click pause and answer the question. Next question. Okay. Well, this is an interesting one because, again, these are hypothetical. We have to use our imaginations, especially with this one. The question is, when would you be born if you could choose to be born at another time? If you could choose to be born at a different time in history, this could be the past, some sort of point of time in the past, or maybe in the future. This could be at some point in time in the future. If you could choose to be born at another time, what time would you choose? Well, maybe you're not very interested in history. Maybe for you, it's very boring. History is very boring. Maybe that was a subject at school that you didn't like because you thought it was tedious and boring and not interesting. Well, maybe you would choose the future. Okay, go into the future. What point of the future? 100 years in the future, 1,000 years in the future, 10,000 years in the future. I think that if you were to go too far into the future, then you might not recognize life in general, by and large. You might feel very strange. You might feel very uncomfortable because what is this? What is that? Oh my God, what has happened in all these years? So 100 years, well, good Lord, in 25 years, that's pretty much the standard, I guess, numerical value on a generation. 25 years. That's symbolic to a generation. So in 25 years, a lot can happen. a lot of considerable, significant things can happen. Imagine in 100 years or 1,000 years. I mean, so again, if you chose to be born in the past, you could actually be very specific and you would know what to expect. So I don't know, 50 years ago, this was the world 50 years ago. You would know what to expect. 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, same type of thing. 2,000 years ago. I think I might, to answer this question, I think I would choose the time that I was born. Because I think it's the best time in the history of the world. Well, probably a lot of people will say that. I think I would choose the future. I would not choose the past, but not too far into the future, maybe a couple of generations, just out of curiosity. Oh, what's just around the corner? What's just about to happen? Maybe we would see things like um, people going to Mars. Maybe that would be in another generation or two. So you would be able to experience these things, maybe even more, maybe 100 years, like 4 generations, 500 years. Anyways, how would you answer that question? If you could choose when to be born at some point of time in the past or in the future, when would you choose to be born? Okay. And again, take the opportunity to answer this question. Take as long as you want. We're practicing. We are practicing our English. Don't worry about making mistakes. You can also practice your pronunciation. That would be good. No one else is listening. So why not practice everything you can? Okay. Well, let's have one more question. One more question. Okay. Well, some of these questions are all, again, these are all hypothetical. Some of them are really interesting. Some of them are really crazy. I don't know. Let's see. How about this one? Okay. Is everybody ready for this one? I think I actually heard a few people say, yeah, come on, ask the question. We'll answer it. We want to answer the question. Please, come on. We're waiting. Okay. Well, here it is. If you could design a new holiday, what holiday would you create and what traditions would it have? Okay. So what we're saying here is that you're going to use your imagination to develop and design a new holiday. What would it be? What would you be celebrating? What kind of things would you be doing? Maybe there will be traditional activities. Maybe there will be traditional food, music, ceremonies, things like that. What would you call the holiday? What name would you give it? Yeah. And again, would this be maybe a holiday for your city or for your state or province where you live? Or maybe this is a regional holiday, or maybe this is a national holiday. Everybody in your country would be celebrating this. Whoa, so what kind of holiday would you have? What would you name it? What would it look like? What kinds of things would you do? And okay, so go for it. That's the final question of the podcast. So again, take the time to have at it. Go for it. How would you answer that question? If you could choose to design a new holiday, what would it be? What kind of holiday would you create? Okay, so click pause and have at it. I think I would answer this question with, for me, this is a no-brainer. Really, the first thing that came to mind was a global holiday. Like, I don't know, any day. Let's just say, why not? Well, if we choose the summer, that would be the winter in the southern hemisphere, because in the summer in the northern hemisphere would be winter in the southern hemisphere, and vice versa. So I would like to say, July or June, but for people in the southern hemisphere, that might be the opposite. So let's say, how about October? We're going to say October the 1st of October. And this is going to be a global holiday. Everybody around the world celebrates this day each and every year. On October 1st, it's called, well, what would it be called? People Day. Let's call it People Day. World Day. Well, World Day sounds, People Day. Let's call it People Day. The day for people, the day of people, for people. We're celebrating humanity. Everybody, every person, all the people in the world. People who you like, people who don't like you. I don't know. Whatever. We can all come together on this day just to understand that a person is no different no matter where they are. A human being is a human being no matter where they were born, no matter what language they speak, no matter of their economic situation, the rich, poor, intelligent, not so intelligent, it doesn't matter. Their professions, their thoughts, their opinions, people are people. So let's just celebrate that. And let's just, I don't know, what could we do? How could we celebrate this? So no work, no school, and let's see. You could celebrate this by, I don't know, maybe there could be some sort of music, like a national anthem, but without lyrics. And maybe there could be a special food, so some basic food that you could offer, or something that you could exchange to one another, maybe even to complete strangers. Happy People Day. Here you go. And or maybe there could be parades. Maybe there could be parades around the world. Maybe this could be like Carnival in Rio de Janeiro and Venice in Italy. And I don't know, maybe this could be a very lively celebration, a very energetic celebration. Maybe we can have parades and music and things like that. And then you might say, well, now it's initially at the beginning, it was meant to celebrate humanity and people. And now it's turned into a commercial thing. And it's just about business. I don't know. But again, it's never a bad idea to remember that we're all brothers and sisters, and we're all the same. So People Day, that would be what I would design, that type of holiday. So what about you? Okay, well, that's pretty much it for this edition of the Fantastic Fluency podcast, or the Q&A podcast number 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you used it to practice as much as possible. That's the idea. And I hope that you are well and happy, and I hope to see you and to be able to speak with you in the next podcast. Until then, take care.